Hello there. Good morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning. How has your weekend been? I've had fun. I've had a full and fun-filled weekend. I hope you had one too. Thank you for joining me in this edition of Knocks to Nuggets. Again, thank you to all of you joining live. Like I will always ask you, please like the video, share it, pass your comments. Let somebody know that Knocks to Nuggets is on live. And I know it will add value to somebody. Last week was quite engaging. Wow. Last week, the feedbacks were huge. Many tables were broken. And like Segun said before we started, said, I don't know who made those tables. A lot of times we made those tables from our mindset, from things that we have seen around us, the way we have patterned our lives, the limits we have put on ourselves. We have capped ourselves in so many ways when we have unlimited access to grace to harness the potentials in our lives. And today we are going to continue that discussion. And again, joining me is no other person than my darling husband who is co-hosting with me. And of course, Segun Lawal, who you have met. If you haven't met him, you know what I need you to do? Go back and watch last week. It will add value to you. So joining me right on now is Gilbert Ute. Thank you so much again for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. I think I'm enjoying this. I think we will do more of this, and I'm sure.
Good morning to all our viewers.
Yes, the audience out there will appreciate you doing this more often with me. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, Segun Lawal is in the house.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Wonderful time we had last week. I look forward to more.
Yes, we had a wonderful time last week, and I know for sure we're going to have much more today. I know the interesting thing. Now, let me give you this feedback, Segun. Somebody called me.
Okay.
I think she's 63, and she says, tell your friend, Spirit of David is calling my name. I'm coming to dance.
I love that. I love that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yes, I'm telling you, you're going to have a 63-year-old joining your team pretty soon. She's coming to dance.
That's so exciting.
You know, it's amazing. We ended off last week saying that age is not a barrier. Many of us think that at a certain point in time we have retired. And so having retired, nothing new can come. And unfortunately, retirement age is coming down. Used to be 70, 60. It's looking more like 45 these days, if not 40. Because for most jobs, you hear age range between 21 and 30 and 32 and 35. Nobody wants to get to 40 anymore. But we're still talking about harnessing potential. You said last week that potential is condiment. And you said, one thing you said that struck me and resonated throughout the week is when we're in a hurry to put it together, we might not get it right. I want to come back to the question I asked before I leave the scene to the two men. Is there really any age limit to discovering your potential?
Well, I don't know if Mr. Ute will go first, but I would say an emphatic no, emphatically, because we mentioned last time out to stop seeing age as age, but rather as seasons.
Yes.
And you could choose to be in a season of your life that requires maturity, that requires experience, and so you're no longer looking at your 50, 60, 70 years as negative. You're looking at it as a qualification for that season.
Somebody is saying, I don't think so. Wow. Somebody thinks there is an age you get to that you cannot discover potential anymore. Segun, I need you to deal that. Someone says, I don't think so. I think at the particular age, it's too late.
Well, I'm not sure if that is what that person meant, but assuming it is, the fact is this, right? If you think about it, right, we are constantly built for times and seasons. We are constantly built to explode and explore at different seasons. And there are certain things you can't do at the age of 21. I mean, no matter how enthusiastic you are. And there are some things you can only do beyond a particular age because of what life has added to you. We mentioned last week about value added. We've mentioned about the ability to combine some of those life experiences with a particular task or assignment or mission. And it's very important to realize that not only, like wine, they say that wine ages well and becomes even more valuable, more expensive with age. Why? Because of that value, of that added on value of years. And I think, we mentioned last time that it is a mindset we need to begin to readdress. That you are not tired because you're retired. There are a lot of people that tire in their thinking before they tire in their bodies. And that is actually more dangerous. To stop thinking you are of any relevance, to stop thinking you can give anything. And I think that's what people suffer a great deal. They just get tired. And that can happen at any age, to be honest. And we need to create more platforms and more opportunities for people at different age brackets, whether you're in the arts, you're in the sciences, whether you're in whatever field of endeavor you may find yourself. The truth is, it's about redefining ourselves in this time, finding value and redefining ourselves.
Finding value and redefining ourselves. So, Gilbert, I turn it over to you now, and let's have this conversation.
Yeah. Segun, you remember that we said potentials are like condiments.
Yes.
And
Sir.
the way and manner we combine these condiments determines the outcome.
Yes.
Which invariably translates to discovering and developing.
Yes.
And we highlighted some areas where we engagement areas like the home, the church, the school system, the society at large, and all that. What kept ringing in my head in all this is engagement. How we'll engage these condiments is critical at all these touch points. How do we maneuver our ways through all these engagements and do it right?
Okay, first of all, we need to build a capacity. And what does that mean, to build capacity? To have the ability to know more, to fit in more. If, for instance, I only know 4 letters of the alphabet, and you ask me to form words, I'm very limited in the words I can form. And so building capacity means I have to learn more. I was talking with somebody the other day, and it says people have stopped reading. I know you and my sister are ferocious readers. I know that much for sure. But somebody said people have stopped reading. And what that actually translates to is slowing down your capacity building, because knowledge builds capacity. It builds options. It gives you information. So I can take the same condiments, and if I'm aware of 4 or 5 different ways to combine those condiments to form different meals, I automatically have options. But if I only know of one way to combine those condiments, I'm already limited. So people tend to think that the period of building capacity is a waste of time. They don't like the idea of studying. They don't like the idea of building knowledge. But it is actually critical in every season of your life to increase your capacity, to research, to learn more. And so even before you start cooking in the kitchen, you have to ask yourself, what are the various combinations and permutations one can perform with these condiments? Please, I really encourage people to constantly try and increase their knowledge base. In the team of people I lead, I know I lead a performing arts team, but I still ask them to research other areas. Research what's happening in science, research what's happening in academia, because what you're actually doing is building the capacity to take more information, and therefore there'll be more output. So first step will be build your capacity.
Excellent. So you're talking more about personal development now. In all of these engagement points or touch points in the home, can we bring it down a bit? What do parents need to do, to discover their children, the potentials in their children, in schools, teachers, and caregivers, in church, the pulpits? How do they discover? What should they be doing now in this age? Not what was happening 30, 40 years back. What should they be looking at or doing to bring out the right condiments and the right potentials that these people have in their vicinity?
It's an excellent question, sir. And some basic approaches or strategies would be to understand that, number one, this is a very visual generation. It's a very visual generation. I've mentioned this last time we spoke, that this generation thinks in pictures. That's why the most popular applications or the most income generating ideas are very visual, whether it's movies, whether it's streaming. And so a lot of our engagements and touch points, as you've mentioned, should have a very strong visual component to them. Sometimes you go back to sharing serious truths and long-lasting truths visually. Create content that is visual, because people think in pictures. If I tell you, if I give you the word CAR now, you are not going to necessarily think of the word car. You're going to visualize a car. And so we need to start learning to visualize things. Number two, it's a very interactive generation. It's not the kind that you just sit in a room and lecture them. You need to be able to be in a position where you can get and enjoy feedback. So I think to a large extent, this generation needs to enjoy feedback. One needs to be in a position where you can actually ask questions and entertain the answers, no matter what those answers may be. They need to feel comfortable that their feedback will be heard. Even if it's not accepted or it's not something I will agree with, at least let there be a platform for feedback. So we have to be very interactive and very engaging. And like I said, build capacity. Learn more about the people you are discussing with. Learn more about the people you want to interact with, you want to support, you want to build with. You've got to do that. You really can't go into battle blind, if you want to use that term. And a lot of us go in with our agenda. Look, in my days, this was you have to be an accountant, you have to be this, you have to be that. That was how it was. But now you need to understand that things have changed. I've mentioned before, the top 10 organizations in the world, at least 70% of them were not in existence 30 years ago. And so there are courses that have changed in school. We need to ask them what their interests are, where their skill sets lie, and look at developing that rather than being in a hurry to replicate ourselves in our children. So I would say those would be the first strategies to think about. Be visual, be engaging, allow for feedback and interaction, and understand the dynamics of this season, that things are genuinely changing and we can't keep holding on to our old way of doing things. However, we must maintain the discipline and the principles that we grew up with and will always be relevant.
Excellent. Your group works a lot with churches.
Yes.
How do you engage the churches and how do you change the dynamics within that environment? Because that environment looks stereotyped.
Yes, it wasn't always easy. I think we had to knock on some doors and we had to scatter some tables. And like we said earlier, I'm always wondering who built all these tables that need to be scattered. Why is the impression as such? So I think one of the things we did, and we even did it with your church, was when we put together this incredible performance, this incredible show that told a fantastic story with music and dance, great lights. I know the church is very engaged in proper production value. So there were great lights, there was great sound. We had a great set designer. And I think it was clear to everybody that, was at that program when we did it initially, that this is a fantastic way to build our young audience, to entertain people with wholesome content, and to also deliver a message that is relevant in our times. And churches are beginning to realize that it's not one size fits all. You can't do it one way all the time. If you do, you will lose a whole demographic. You will lose millions and millions of people who are just not interested in that particular way, not because they're evil or because they're bad, but because we all have preferences. And so if you're going to speak to me, you need to speak to me in a language I understand. And so we realize that the performing arts, or arts generally, is a language that resonates universally all over the world. And it is simply a way to communicate one's ethos and one's values. And I think churches began to jump on that and began to see that if they like, they should preach until they're blue in the face on Sunday. People are still going to listen to the radio on Monday, Tuesday. People are going to watch whatever they watch on Netflix. People are going to still listen to whatever they listen to. And those are the things that will resonate more in their hearts because of, I can't listen to something for 5 days and then listen to you for 2 hours. Which one is going to resonate more in me? We tend to retain things we hear over and over again. So I think churches and other touch points are beginning to realize that it is not compromise if you use a strategy of communication. It's just communication. I've not compromised. I am trying to communicate my values to you.
Yeah. Excellent. I hear you loud and clear. The world is, and this does not just resonate only in the entertainment world. It cuts across every sphere of life. What I hear you talking about is that the world is making us global citizens. Yeah. And so for us to be relevant in the global setting, we have to have what the outside world needs. How do we get there?
Well, there's no doubt that for people of faith like us, we have always feared being in the world and becoming part of the world, And even if you're not a person of faith, people fear generally contamination. Cultures fear contamination. Cultures fear the fact that, we are wearing a suit and we're wearing a t-shirt and that is not our indigenous dressing. And people think, there's always mindsets around this thing. However, you've always got to keep the mission in mind. And going back to our analogy, the mission is to come out of the kitchen with a fantastic meal that everyone at the table can enjoy. So the truth of the matter is that if we keep the vision and the mission in mind, then we can present not just preserved cultures, but even countercultures. Remember we said earlier, who built the table? People are building cultures these days. They're building mindsets. They're building philosophies that people are jumping on the back of. Even these days, culture is very hard to define now. So I've always said, who is building the table that we are even saying we're shaking? Why can't we determine the narrative? Why can't we introduce cultures and countercultures that come out for every human being's good? And so it's really important to realize that when you are, and I want to use this word carefully, infiltrating societies, you are doing so with a mission in mind. You're doing so because you believe that there is something to be gained from in relating with these cultures and relating with these people to show them, a way that it can be really beneficial to them. So that's always been my mission. My mission has always been, I'm not about what I'm wearing or why I'm wearing it. I want you to understand me. I want you to understand an ethos. And if it means I have to wear this particular garb to do so, or speak in this particular language of the performing arts, then so be it. It ends up being a means to an end rather than an end in itself.
Excellent. Let me put you in a corner now. Forgive me ahead. I'm sure you've heard the term Sorosoke generation.
Yes.
How do you guide this Sorosoke generation to fit and to excel?
First of all, I'm always fascinated by young people. I think we are so dynamic, and I say we because no matter what, I'm still a young person. I refuse, even if I'm 70 today, I will still identify as a young person. And I say that because young people want to be heard. The whole idea of Sorosoke means I want to be heard, speak up, speak louder. And it means what we've done is we've tried to put them in a corner. Back then in church, you would say the young people should go out and go to one corner of the compound somewhere as if they were hand luggage, and you just put them somewhere. It's always been a funny mentality, the way we've dealt with these people. So first of all, how do you deal with your future that way? I mean, this is the future. Whether you like them or not, or you like their approach or not, you will not live forever. In the next 50 years, how many of us will still be around? And people who are being born now, who are 5, 10 years old, will likely be. And so there has to be a conscious investment. We have to give platforms that can begin to shape them. They are still very much like sponges, soaking up whatever they see. And that, of course, is what will be released if you squeeze them. So for me, it's about what are we feeding them? I mean, can they sit down with you and enjoy some tales by moonlight? Can they enjoy some stories that can benefit them? We're not creating enough platforms, sir. We're not engaging enough. We approach them like they're handicapped, or like I said before, they're hand luggage, they're excess luggage. Instead of us to approach them and say, look, what can this person squeeze from me? What can this person soak in from me, knowing that when things get tough and they are squeezed, is what I gave them that will come out. So the truth is that whatever we see happening to them when they are squeezed was what was absorbed before the squeeze. And we have to ask ourselves, how much did we contribute to what was absorbed before the squeeze? And it's a very interesting conversation. So like I said, we need to create platforms. We need to engage them where they are. We need to, some of us need to be a bit more social. We need to get out there into the public space a bit more and probably learn a couple of things that they speak now. You know, like my beloved 63-year-old auntie who wants to get dancing again. She'll be shocked how many people will gather around her at every meeting to find out why is she doing this. And that's a platform for her to share her values. As simple as that.
Wow. So it's actually engaging to create a platform to share values.
That's beautiful.
So in what way can we, because we now live in a social media era, and it has its good, the bad, and the ugly. How do we take the good of it and make it a platform where it adds values to this engagement that we are doing, or this development that we are doing?
It's a game of numbers. It's a game of numbers. I'm a sports person, and if my team scores 3 goals in a match, you would think that's sufficient to win the game. But if the opponent scores 4 goals, then my 3 goals really don't matter. And we are not producing enough content. We're not generating enough numbers to build a critical mass, because there is some great content out there. There's some fantastic content, very edifying, very wholesome, very constructive out there in the social media space. Social media is not all things bad and evil. People are really using it to make a difference. They really are, you know, showing kindness, showing everyday people doing extraordinary things. But the numbers don't seem to reflect on that. So I would say that people should dedicate time every week, like what you're doing through this platform, to just add to the numbers of, should I say, yes, to wholesome programming. It doesn't matter, even if you say you are just getting 10 views or 100 views, just keep adding, build the numbers of proactive, constructive, positive, edifying content. You know, you've just got to keep at it, and then let's build that traction and let's build that critical mass. Also, we need to support each other a whole lot more. Sometimes we only market programs that we are involved in. So I will only talk, but we need to do more. We need to be able to say, Knox to Nuggets is producing fantastic content. You know what? I'm going to go to that my WhatsApp group. I'm going to go to that my network, and I'm going to say, please log in on Mondays at 7:45 a.m. and listen to good content. So sometimes you don't have to be the one that is a content producer, but you can market good. What do they call it? Sharing or tagging or whatever. You can
collaboration.
Collaborations are key. So you may not necessarily be the one developing the content. Your mission could be, I'm going to find good content and I'm going to share it. A friend of mine is always sharing content with me from TikTok about kindness shown in society. And you know what? It's made me interested. Find content that you can share, even if you're not producing yourself. It's a lot of numbers.
Excellent. Coming back to, you know, discovering and developing.
Okay.
We delved. I know we've done a lot with those two arms of discussion, but still talking about developing. What has been your experience, you know, in your field? For instance, give us a few of your personal experience in developing these people that you work with in the entertainment world.
Yes, thank you. I think one of many things we've done over time is we've realized that location. We started having meetings when in Lagos at the National Theatre. At first, we used to have in Unilag, the guest house. I don't know how many people were in Unilag back in the 80s, 90s. Guest house was towards the end of the road behind Senate Building, and that's where we would have our meetings. And like I said, location. You find out that young people after classes, they will hear that people are dancing somewhere, and they'll say, well, let's go check it out. Let's go and see what's happening there. So after school, they'll just take a stroll from their halls and they'll go to guest house and they'll sit on the walls at the back space there and we'll just be learning dances. We will hold hands, we will pray, we will have discussions, we will talk about what young people go through and we'll put on dances. And we found out that people kept coming back, whether they actually joined the club or not. They kept coming back because they liked the discussions, they were entertained by the dances. And after a while, they stopped sitting on the walls and they came and joined the club. And that was the beginning of mentorship and discipleship, where people, it's easier to disciple people who share an interest already, who are already personally vested, who have seen it and they enjoy it and they like it and it resonates with them. And so we found out that people from universities began to make quality decisions about their lives just because they were in meetings like this. They saw an alternative to what they should listen to. We redefined people's music playlists a lot. A lot of people didn't know you could find good gospel rap music or reggae. And so it was really beginning to readjust people's thinking. And when you're listening to music,
you are busy breaking the tables.
I make the tables, my brother, I don't just break tables, I make tables. And so I say, you know what, let me make some tables. And the number of them, there's so many cases of people that have been in the club now for 20 plus years because of a music playlist or a CD that I recorded for them. One of them is in Chicago now. They're all over the world and they're great business people, they're medics, they're managers. And they will tell you all started because of that time in guest house. So location is key. When we moved to the National Theatre, we were around people who were more of the traditional dancers, who were people of that locale in Surulere and their environments. And then having us move there, they spent more time with us. And in a sense, location becomes an outreach and the same mentoring process. So a lot of the things we need to ask ourselves is, how relevant am I in my location? And location can be digital, or location can be a mental space. Location can be a network. So you have to take advantage of location and ask yourself, that's my immediate reach. And then build mentorship programs. Mentorship is not here today, gone tomorrow. It has to be sustained impact. And for us, we have had too many stories. I mean, so many stories of people from secondary school age, university age, or who are even beyond that, who get married, who find there's trouble in the marriage, and they find a way to just express themselves in the dance to the healing of that marriage. I mean, there'd be so many stories.
Wow. I wish I have a hold on time. The way the time is, my God,
it's flying.
Location is everything. Now, look, you talked about location as a place of developing these potentials. Excellent. Now, which brings us to the end value of where we're going. How do we deploy them? How do we get them to see the value that has been created in them and go out and make an impact, whichever? How do we get to that point where we now release and let go?
Well, I'm going to be a bit personal at this point. I think we have to be vulnerable. I had to show people that this is my own life journey, and it wasn't always smooth sailing. It had its ups and downs. It had its successes and failures. And when you come out in that vulnerability, people realize that you are not just some figurehead leader somewhere trying to impress a society, but you're a person on a journey. And because most people are on a journey, they see your vulnerability and they feel that you're walking with them. And it helps. And so to a very large extent, tell personal stories, share your vulnerability as much as possible without giving too much away so you can protect yourself. But show people that you are a person and that you're on a journey and so are they. And it suddenly makes your story more believable. It suddenly makes what you're doing more believable. You know how they say that the person that is pounding yam, the thing tastes different than poundo yam. And that is, I mean, I'm not saying anything against poundo yam, but I was with someone the other day that says, look, I can tell when someone has sweated to make this poundo yam.
You can smell and taste the sweat.
You can taste the sweat. And as gross as that sounds, I think what the person is trying to say is that there is something about your experience being part of the storytelling, about your issues being part. It's why I love spending time with you and Sister Yomi, because you can taste the sweat in the pounded yam, so to speak. You can smell the fire in the jollof. You would know that people on a journey can detect when something is mechanical and when something is real. They can tell when you are just echoing someone's story, but you're not saying your own. You know, and for me, being able to be a bit vulnerable in certain locations. I mean, look at it now. This world follows people who can tell their stories, who are not vulnerable. You look at social media, for instance, and these people are saying, this is my story. And suddenly there are millions of views. And many of us look at those people and say, I can never tell my story like that. Or, I cannot expose myself like that. And I understand. But I've discovered personally, like I said, this is personal for me, that being that leader that is on the ground with sleeves rolled up with everybody else and is not behind saying, you go ahead, but is taking the risks with you, is for. I think that's the kind of example people need to see. And so if you fall and you hit the ground and they see that you've dusted yourself down, they don't feel so self-condemned when they fall. They say, okay, I can dust myself down and get back on my horse and move again. So there's a lot of being vulnerable that comes with being a leader, which with setting that example. You're right. We shouldn't just echo someone else's story. We should let people into our world by telling our stories. And I think that's so important. People have a way of knowing if what they're hearing is real, and it tends to just be an introduction to what they can experience.
Yeah. Excellent. As we begin to round up, so many things are just coming up. Learn to tell your stories. Because in doing that, you are taking ownership of your own value systems that you want to share with the world.
Oh, wow. Yes, sir. Wow. I love that.
So,
wow.
But we all know that life is not all bed of roses.
Yes.
There are times where you fail, stumble, and things go down south. How do you deal with failures? How do you deal with situations that look miserable, or people you have poured out so much into and they just crash? How do you deal with failures?
I mean, I've failed. There's no way of sugarcoating that. I have burnt some meals. I have offered some burnt sacrifices using using that kitchen analogy. I have just made a mess of certain meals. And you have a choice to either wallow in self-pity and self-condemnation, or to say, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? Maybe I should have got somebody else in the kitchen. Maybe I should have sat under somebody. And that means having an accountability partner. Or maybe I should have been a bit more open about my plans. So that you learn in different ways. But I think one of the things what I'm very committed to is making people realize that it doesn't define them. Every Sunday, for instance, at 1 p.m., I hold a session called Strength in the Struggle that allows people to just come in and just unburden, and the rest of us are just listening. It's almost like, how Alcoholics Anonymous sessions are. People sit in a circle and say, hi, I'm Segun, I'm an alcoholic, and they start talking. I realize that one step to healing from failure is being able to find a safe space to talk and to not feel condemned. And so every 1 p.m. on Sundays, we find people come in and share their stories of what they're going through. And it's become such a community. It's been on for about a year now. It's a community of people who are no longer condemned by their shortcomings, who find a peace. So I think it's one of the things we should do. We should listen more when we fail. We should find people we can cook with in the kitchen who do not condemn us for being prophets of burnt offerings and give us the strength to pick up. And I've found such encouraging people in yourself and Sister Yomi. You're people that really do believe in people. And you'll be surprised that gets people to go back into the kitchen and try again. And that's what we want people. We want people to try again. We want people to wash up the pot and try again.
My God, my God. Wow. We have gone deep into our time. But I just will not let you go until I make you talk about this. Values. What are the
Mm,
values? People keep telling me our values systems have changed. Our values have changed. Our values have changed. In
mm.
harnessing potentials and discovering all these, what kind of values will you suggest that we should be looking out for to amplify?
Well, first of all, I think Segun Lawal definition. I think a value is what you attach meaning to, how much meaning you attach to something. So it may not necessarily reflect the cost. This thing could cost 1,000 naira, but the value that it brings to me is so much more. And I think one of the things we need to do is, for me personally, I try and teach why a thing is valuable. And not just, I mean, we hear value, value, value a lot, and it's almost just thrown out there all the time. But when you tell people why something is valuable, they tend to want to preserve that. They tend to respect it. And so, for instance, my faith is valuable to me because of my convictions, what it has done for me in the tough times, how I felt comforted, how I've gone through things. When we share the meaning, what things mean to us, we communicate a value system all by itself. Suddenly, people are not just living for the surface, they're living for meaning. And it's so important that we take the time out patiently to communicate why we do what we do. We should be a people that talk more about our whys. And in so doing, you are communicating value. So, for instance, why are we having this session? Why are we committing time and resources to it? And suddenly, when you share that, people understand that value is a system of preserving why over what. Value is a system of saying, this is the meaning. This is what this means to me. This is why this should mean X, Y, and Z to you. If we don't preserve our values, the meaning of these things, we will lose essence, we will lose identity, we would taint culture, we would lose direction and purpose. And so what happens is that what we do has become so much more respected in our eyes than why we do it. So people don't even care why they do anything anymore. They just want it. I just want to be rich. It's not even a matter of how you got rich. Oh, I just want to be married. You're not even thinking about the institution, the care and the love and the time that goes into it. So I think we should be on a mission to speak more about our whys and the meaning we put into things. And then you will discover the potential. Thank you so much for this time, sir. I mean, it just feels as if it's only
Wow,
2 or 3 minutes.
wow. I'm sure we can go on and on and on and on. But last week when Anansi of over 60 said to us that I want to go and dance, I want to go and join Segun's team, I want to dance. I want you to talk to the older audience, particularly about these values.
Oh, wow.
They may have been retired, but their values are still relevant.
Yes.
How do you speak to them to redefine themselves in this current dispensation?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, Brother Uche, I said, don't be tired mentally. If there's anything, don't be tired in your creativity, don't be tired in your passion, because this generation, right, is owned by the creative. The creatives own this season. The creatives own this season. And you create up here, you create in your mind, And so for me, regardless of your age, especially when you're older, I feel that there are stories that older people can tell that we can give a modern twist, and it's incredible content. I mean, one of the programs I used to love watching was Tales by Moonlight. It's just the whole idea of being told a story under a sycamore tree or something. I just think it's incredible. And I would love to reach out to older audiences and ask them to please get in touch. We want to put on events. We want to put on programs that older audiences can come and enjoy, that younger audiences can benefit from the value and the experience and the wisdom of our aunties and our uncles. I want to start doing that, but I need to know that there are people out there who are willing to collaborate with me and get into the kitchen with me, roll up our sleeves and put on our chef's apron and come out with some incredible meals.
Incredible
So
meals.
please do reach out to me. I'm very open to discuss how we can work together in redefining our generation. I'm making some tables.
Well, you can reach Segun. The address is his website is on the screen. Just reach out to him, and I'm sure he will get back to you. Whoever you are, I'm sure you will get value for your time. Thank you so much, Segun. I just, in fact, you've blown my mind this morning. It's been
Thank God.
awesome, awesome all the way. And
Thank you.
we hope to have you back so soon, very soon.
I look
Because
forward to
I'm
it.
sure there's so much that we can still uh, uh, deal with and
Yes.
share with our
Yes.
audience.
Yes.
Times are
Yes.
changing. We also need
Yes.
to flow with time. And
Yes.
time is fast spent. Today is Monday. Some of
Yes.
our audience need to get to work. So
Absolutely.
I will allow you to go. But
Thank you,
thank you
sir.
so much for your time and our love to your family. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
man. Thank
My
you.
regards. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right there. So that's our guest for tonight, our Nursing Potentials Part 2 with Segun Lawal. What a wonderful, wonderful time out we've had with him. Thank you so much. Next week, we are going to be we'll be discussing politics. Politics. There you go. With our dear brother Dayo Israel. Let's talk about politics. Somebody said to me a few days ago, we are all political animals. So I'm sure you'll have wonderful time next week when you join us as we discuss politics with Brother Dayo Israel. I'm sure you'll be blessed. So make our time with us next week as we discuss politics. Thank you for your time this week. It's been awesome showcasing with you all the values that we can harness within whichever place and station God has placed you in this life. There is value that you can add to any potential that is standing in front of you. Thank you very much for giving us your time, and we hope to see you next week Monday, 7:45. Hope to see you there. Thank you and God bless. Bye for now.